Before any of that, some breaking news just in. Shamed Met Police Officer David Carrick has, in the past few minutes, been sentenced at Southwark Crown Court in London.
This makes a total of 36 life sentences. The minimum term you will have to serve before the parole board can think of releasing you is 30 years, 239 days. And you may go down.
So that was Mrs Justice Chima Grubb there sentencing. Carrick pleaded guilty to 49 charges, detailing 85 serious offences dating as far back as 2003, which include rape, sexual assault and false imprisonment, all whilst he was a serving police officer. The judge said he has caused irretrievable devastation in the lives of those he abused, adding that some of the women now feel that they cannot trust men or the police. So, Janet, 30 years. I mean, it has been such a shocking case, and it's almost unbelievable that he managed to get away with everything he was doing for so long.
17
whilst
years.
As a serving police officer in the Metropolitan Police.
The fact that he got away with it for 17 years says two things. Number one, the women didn't think that they would be believed. And there's been evidence from one woman that I heard on the radio and saw on television that after she was raped and she was seen by a doctor or a nurse, that person said to her, well, people in the police always look after themselves. And the fact that these women didn't know about the other women and that it went on for so long, that's just terrible that 12 women carried that with them, and there might be more for all we know.
Well, it does say that even though he has now been sentenced, that it's been reported that the criminal investigation will stay active even after this sentencing because they believe there's probably information about further offences that have come to light.
So what that tells us is that within the police force, for all this apologies, that there'll be plenty of apologising today, and there has been in the past, there is a culture, and that went on for 17 years, where women, many of the women worked in the police or were connected to the police, had things done to them, like they were stamped on their body with property of the Met Police, and that was thought to be a joke. One of them was put in a car as a kind of initiation routine. Now, other people that worked with this man obviously knew that went on and didn't say anything.
Well, they had a nickname for him, which I can't repeat on daytime television,
what about...
which says a lot.
Well, what about Wayne Couzens, who murdered Sarah Everard? You know, it was known... There were WhatsApp groups. He was known as the rapist. That's how he was known. They talked about it. Why was a man who had been already arrested for or certainly accused of certain things, and I can't remember whether he was charged for those, but the fact is that a man clearly there was enough evidence for his colleagues to jokingly refer to him as that, and then you're surprised when something like that happens.
Doesn't there, Gloria?
Of misogyny.
Just going away for these individuals, but just a culture which is unbelievable this day and age. In the fire service recently, they were accused of taking photographs or commenting on women's underwear at a scene of a fatal accident. The police officers who took photographs of those two dead women, the sisters. You know, so there does seem to be this culture of disregard for women, misogyny, that is going under the radar. I mean, Janet said about apologies. The Metropolitan Police Assistant Commissioner, Barbara Gray, says... Quote from her, I am truly sorry for the harm and devastation he has caused the victims. We let the victims down. We failed to identify a man in the ranks of the Met who carried out the most awful offences. He should not have been a police officer. But you see,
those seem empty words at the end, don't they? Because this case is horrific, and there was quite a lot of description on the news last night. And I must say, I find it very difficult even to listen to the women and to what happened to them, because this seems to be just an extreme case that I've never come across in my lifetime of 17 years. And there are a couple of issues here. It'll take the police, I believe, a long time to actually build up their trust again. I mean, personally, I was brought up to really respect and the police were always sort of, a marvellous organisation, never afraid to go to them. But because they didn't challenge this within 17 years, and they could have done, that is a big error. And it is tragic, and I feel very sorry for the women, in fact, who have been abused.
And are these just being dealt with because we find out about them, you know, that...
What more is going on
more is going on,
about. Well, anyway, that is the latest news. David Carrick, former Met Police officer, He pleaded guilty to 49 charges and he's been sentenced to more than 30 years in prison at Southwark Crown Court just a few minutes ago. If anything that we've just been talking about has affected you, there are helplines for you on our website.